Hi folks, I'm Jimmy Ratliff, Community Liaison with Dynamic Independence here in Bartlesville, Oklahoma. It is April the 17th, 2024, and I am here with Alesa Loftus, who is one of our employees here at Dynamic Independence. She's also an advocate, and she works on inclusion programs with school children in the area. Alesa, hi.
Hi.
So tell us a little bit about what inclusion means for you.
Inclusion is making sure that everyone is able to take part in any kind of event, whether it be a community event, a school event, an employee event, no matter what their differences are.
Excellent. So you work with the schools through a program that's called Bruins Unite, is that correct?
Yeah. Myself and, started with Nadia Jackson, who is one of the coaches for the Special Olympics here in Bartlesville. They were looking for a way to establish the unified excellence with the Special Olympics, and one of the requirements is that they encourage and build in the inclusion in the school. So in order for Bartlesville to get the unified membership, they were trying to think of different ways. And we had met with Nadia, I believe it was the end of 2021, and talked to her about being supportive of the Special Olympics, which of course we are. We always stand behind our students, whether they're disabled or not disabled. But we talked to her about that thing, and she got really busy, we got really busy, we hadn't talked to her for several months. So I guess it was around, probably July or August of last year that she came in and spoke with me again, and she had seen our puppets. We talked about the Kids on the Block puppets that we had here in the office that had not been used a long time. And she said, what could we use the puppets for working with the kids in the schools, and maybe have them do the performances with the puppets.
So they would be puppeteers,
right?
The puppets.
They would be the puppeteers.
And so what about these puppets? What's unique about them?
They are puppets that have disabilities their own selves. We have puppets that have autism. We have a puppet that is deaf, hard of hearing, blind, seeing impaired. We have one with Down syndrome, we have one with spina bifida, one with cerebral palsy that has a wheelchair. So all of these puppets, it's called Kids on the Block, and they were really popular, I believe it was like 60s or 70s. I can kind of remember watching them on like the PBS channels and stuff when I was a kid. So I was kind of enthralled with them from the minute I started with working with Dynamic Independence, and I thought, man, that would be really cool to be doing puppet shows for the kids. I've always loved puppets. So when Nadia came in and she asked about using the puppets, and I said, hey, that would be just awesome. So she said, I'm going to have one of the teachers at Central Middle School contact you, because she wants to start a Bruins Unite at the middle school and have the kids possibly do something with the puppets. So Leanne Pressler, who is a second grade teacher, and she's a special ed teacher as well, she contacted me, and she was starting the Bruins Unite, and that was going to be meeting once a week, starting at not long after the beginning of the school year. She hadn't gotten it off the ground yet. She had to get, what students were going to be interested. And this, let me be clear, Bruins Unite is a group of kids that have disabilities and that don't have disabilities. They're all ages from 6th to 8th grade. So around 12 to 13, 11, maybe 11 to 13. I think most of them are 12 and 13. That whether they have disabilities or not, they all are in a group. I think we have about 20 to 25 of them right now, and they meet once a week, and we play games. We have conversations about inclusion and what that is, about diversity. We just get together and really have a great time. And let me tell you, that is one of the best parts of my day. And Leanne is constantly saying it's the same thing for her. Because it doesn't matter what kind of day you're having. I don't know if you remember when you were that age, getting up in the morning and having to go to school, you're like,
Absolutely, yeah.
Well, I think some of us kind of feel like that sometimes on mornings when we have to get up and just start our day and go to work or school or whatever. Sometimes you just don't want to get up and get going. It's better once you're going, but that energy first thing in the morning. But these kids always have so much energy. And so we've done different games, and one of the things that's really great is for inclusiveness, and talking about inclusiveness and including everybody, we've done things like we did air hockey.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, obviously without the air in the table. So they would play it on the floor, on the gymnasium floor, and they get down on their stomachs, and they used, we had hockey pucks, but we used the cones, the little like caution cones that are about this big, and they were hitting the bean bags or the hockey pucks back and forth to each other. But so you had area on the floor. That includes somebody who's in a wheelchair, climbs down out of the wheelchair and is able to get down on the floor, and you don't know anybody has a difference. But another way that we have had an inclusive was we have individuals that is, say, in a wheelchair. So we played like flag tag in the gym one day, and one of the ways, so obviously with somebody who's using a manual chair, maybe a power chair would be a little faster, but a manual chair, it's only however fast you can wheel it with your hands. Sure. So in order to catch up to somebody to take their flag, they might need a little bit of help, get a little push to get going. So the kids that do not have the physical disability, the mobility issue, would go and help the individual that's with the manual wheelchair and maybe give them a push and work as a team to catch somebody who's running,
right,
and they're able to take that. So they've really worked well with partnering together, helping each other. They've made friendships. I mean, you could tell when these kids come in and they see each other, or even on other days, well, they'll see each other in the hallway and they're like, hey, and high-fiving each other in the hallway and stuff. So we've really got to watch friendships grow, and these kids have really bonded, and I've just been really impressed. So that's how it all started. It was just one day a week, and it's about 20-25 minutes of a morning on Wednesdays. So we immediately had already been planning for the puppets to be working with the group. But with 20 to 25 kids, and not everybody was going to be interested in the puppets. There was a lot that are, but 20 to 25 kids, they weren't all on. And also some of them having to make a commitment to that extra time, because sometimes they're not always there on Wednesday. They may not be there every day that you would be working for. So we had to get permission from the principal so that we could have a little extra time, because 20 to 25 minutes is really not enough time to work with a group that maybe wasn't interested in puppets, and then you have a group that was, and there's only so many of us adults in there. There's paras in there with the kids that are Special Olympians, and then there's Leanne, and there was myself. So Leanne went to the principal and she got permission for us to have 3 additional days, which are Monday, Tuesdays, and Thursdays of the week, and it's the same 20 to 25 minutes in the morning. Usually it's like during their advisory time in the morning, so they're not being taken out of a class that's an academic class like math or history.
It's kind of a study hall type time where they can catch up on homework.
So we got those 3 extra days, and we had kids that said, yes, we want to do the puppets. Please, we want to do the puppets. So we started meeting with them on the Monday, Tuesdays, and Thursdays. And they just learned from us at first how to respect the puppets. They had to learn how to handle them, learn about, because these are high dollar puppets. These are the big puppets. And so we wanted them to make sure they had clean hands when they handle them, not roughhousing with them. They're not to be beating each other up, even play wrestling with them. They're to be respected and handled. So they learned to do that. then they learned puppetry, and we were learning with them. I had never really operated a puppet like those myself. I had always used, just the hand puppets. But these have the arm, they're kind of like more like the Jeff Dunham and Peanut and all the, with the hands and everything. And so then if you're operating, we have one, his name is Mark Anthony, and he has cerebral palsy, the puppet. And he sits in a wheelchair. So you're not only operating the puppet, but you have to operate that wheelchair.
And this wheelchair is made like a real
It
wheelchair.
looks and moves just like
So
a
it's got
real
weight to
manual chair.
it.
Yes,
Additionally, it's not
it's got the
sewn
weight
in or
and everything.
something. Yeah.
And the puppets are also heavy. They're top heavy. Their heads are top heavy. So we have our other puppet that has spina bifida, and she has braces on her arms and her legs, and so those are weighty too. So when you're operating her, you're controlling her mouth and stuff. You're holding her body up, and then if you're operating her hands to make them move, and she's a cheerleader, so they have to be able to kind of move those body parts for to make like she's doing a cheer or whatever. So operating those, it's been really interesting. The kids we didn't get to start really manipulating the puppets and practicing with talking a script and operating the puppets until probably 2-3 weeks ago. And we are now have had our second full rehearsal for the puppet show that we will be performing at the beginning of May at Ranch Heights for the second graders there. And the kids are so excited, and I am so proud. I am so proud of the group of kids. There is a total of 12 students that are participating in putting on this show, and it's 4 small skits that last from about 6 to 8 minutes each. So the entire program will be about an hour.
Okay.
So, and it is teaching them the disabilities it's teaching on this time is Down syndrome and spina bifida and cerebral palsy and blindness. And so we're really excited. This is our first year. The reason we're only getting to do just a small skit this time at just the one school for the one grade, because this is like kind of our pilot program.
Sure.
So we're hoping, really hoping, that the principal will bless us with the same amount of time, or maybe even a little bit more time, a different time next year. And also, I'm looking to possibly do a summer program, and Leanne, of course, so that we could do one during the summer.
Would this summer program be limited to just those kids in that school, or would you open it up for
the
kids
summer
around
program
the
would
community?
be for the Bartlesville area community kids, and the ages would be the same, though. We would still keep it from around that middle school age to start out, because it is very time consuming, and because we are inclusive, and so that it is both disabled and non-disabled. So when you have kids that have a disability, one of the things that we teach, and our puppets even teach, is that with kids that have disabilities, they can do everything that a kid without a disability can do.
Right.
It just might take them a little longer to learn it, or you might have to find a way around and how they can do it their way.
So they're differently abled.
Right.
A lot of the time.
Exactly. They may have to learn to hold the puppet differently, or they might, like say if they have a hand or arm that's has contracture with cerebral palsy and stuff like that, they might not be actually able to operate the puppet. So they might need to partner with an adult or with another student, which would be ideally, so that one could actually do the speaking
Mm-hmm.
for the puppet while the other one is actually operating the puppet. There's lots of ways to get around and make sure that everybody gets to take part. And then for the summer program, other than just doing the puppet skits and learning to operate the puppets, there's other things that take part in any kind of theater. So you've got, backdrops, making backdrops. You've got creating the skits.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot more to it that can be done. And for those performances, we would like to do shows like, say, at when we take part at Freedom Fest.
Right.
Maybe doing a small puppet show for the people of Freedom Fest.
Mm-hmm.
And then I know that The Rock
Mm-hmm.
has spoken to us, and they have said that they would be open to us coming and maybe doing one for the kids at their ministry.
Yeah.
So that's just two of the possible options. So we're just really looking forward to building on this and making something to where it's educational and fun for the kids.
So it's interactive because kids are using the puppets, but there's obviously not enough time and maybe enough people to control all the puppets in one single skit. So you're interacting on an individual basis, or in small groups. So how do you engage the kids that aren't involved in that particular skit? Are they asking questions? Are they
Yes.
doing other things in the background
Yes.
to participate in the skit, even though they're not directly controlling the puppet?
Yes. We have a couple of them that are going to be like planted in the audience, and so they have a puppet, but maybe they like there's one in particular, she can't hold the puppet. She hasn't found. She says they're too heavy,
Mm-hmm.
so she's not feeling it right now with actually operating the puppet's mouth and stuff. But she really, really wanted to be doing the puppets. So we figured out a way. She is actually holding the puppet up, and she is asking a question as that puppet from the audience. So that's a part of the way that she's going to
Engage with
engage
it.
in the puppet. So, but even if they don't have a puppet, to ask questions, because second graders may not know. Second graders are going to ask questions. Some of them may actually be ones that we can answer that actually gives some information about the disability that the puppet is talking about. But some are going to be ones that are kind of silly or nonsensical. So we want to make sure that at least 2 or 3 questions that are actually pertinent to that disability. Like one was, how do you get dressed?
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of for one of the things that we've seen to found with where we're testing out kids. They wanted to know, like, how does a person in a wheelchair
Mm-hmm.
get dressed? If they can't stand up on their own, how do they take on and off their clothes?
Right.
How do you go to the bathroom?
Yeah.
Silly as it sounds, that's a second grade kind of a, that's an elementary school kind of a question, and it's kind of a personal question.
Sure.
It wouldn't be proper etiquette for an adult to go up and ask another adult, well, how do you go to the bathroom?
Right.
But the fact is that for children, if they look at another child that's different, and especially one that maybe has a physical disability where they're in a wheelchair, that can be real off-putting for them. So if they're able to ask that question, that helps them to understand that other child and maybe relate to them and understand, well, we're not all that different.
Right.
Because, our student puppet, our puppet is a child.
Right.
So our puppet says, I get my mom,
Mm-hmm.
or I have my aide helps me. Those are, answers. It doesn't have to be, descriptive. It's just
Right.
a simple answer. And also, too, it's sometimes the person that's operating the puppet doesn't know everything about the disability. I mean, personally, I'm a diabetic. I don't know everything about diabetes.
Sure.
But so if somebody asks me a question about my diabetes, and I don't know, I said, well, I'm not sure,
You
but I
can
can
share
find
your
out.
experience.
I can tell you how mine is. I can find out. I would have to ask my doctor. Or for a child, if they're asked something about their disability that maybe they don't know, maybe they just haven't learned yet. Maybe it's a new disability. something that just recently happened.
Right.
Well, I don't know, but I can ask my mom.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so there's always a way so that they know that it's okay to ask questions. If you do it in a responsible and a respectful manner,
Mm-hmm.
there is absolutely nothing wrong with asking questions. You know, it's kind of the old saying, read the room.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just do it in a respectful way, without, you know, making fun or making the person feel self-conscious. In fact, with one of the skits that the puppets are doing, and the one puppet is asking Mark Anthony about how he uses the bathroom,
Mm-hmm.
and she leans in and whispers it softly. She doesn't just shout it out.
Right.
So that, you know, showing that it's a respect.
Right.
It's not to embarrass you. I'm curious.
Right.
You know? And she even says beforehand, this is kind of personal. And he goes, oh, sure, you know, you can ask me. So she's letting him know, I would like to ask you a question, but it's kind of personal.
Mm-hmm.
Do you mind answering that?
Right.
You know, don't just blurt it out.
Right. And part of that promotes that education and understanding. And a lot of times, I think both children and adults, there's a certain amount of people are uncomfortable asking some of those questions because they don't know what to expect. But as long as it's asked in such a way that's respectful,
Yeah.
then then most people don't have any kind of an issue answering
Right.
those types of questions because everybody needs to understand, and that promotes that inclusion that we talked about.
Yeah.
All right.
So, I don't know what else to say except for that I am just super honored that I have been able to work with Leanne Pressler and the other paras, and we have an awesome interpreter that does ASL
Mm-hmm.
for one of the students in the group that is deaf, hard of hearing, and she is phenomenal. She has worked with us and the puppets, so while she is translating for the student, she has also been learning the skits, because while we do our puppet show, she will be doing ASL and interpreting for him, but also for the students that we are performing it for.
Right.
So it's been an awesome project so far. It's probably the best part of every day of my week. Fridays we don't meet, so it's kind of a Friday thing. You're like, I don't have the kids today, but they've had me taking part of stuff. I mean, I'm 54 years old. They had me taking part in their dance party. So we were doing the cha-cha slide and dancing to Taylor Swift and
Dabbing.
So, no, there was no dabbing.
Oh, okay.
No, there was no dabbing. But we had fun. We had fun, and they even got me out there running on the gym, doing the tag.
Yeah.
And of course, I came in here, and probably for the first 30 minutes, once I got to work, I still had to catch my breath. So, but that's what kids keep us young too. So
They give you as much energy as you give them in that program. But it's a give and take in that sense, and everybody's better off for it. All right. Alesa, anything else that we're going to discuss today?
That's all I can think of to share with you right now.
Okay.
The program's going to be May 7th at Ranch Heights, and it'll just be for the second graders. We're not able to open it up to the public yet, so everybody just kind of cross your fingers. And if this is kind of a test for us, and if it goes smooth, and the principal and the other school. The principal at Central likes it and the other school likes it, then possibly they'll let us go forth with it next year, and we really, really hope that. Sadly, a couple of the kids that are in our group this year are going to be moving on to the high school, so they won't be part of the puppeteers for the school next year. But that's also another reason to try to start the summer program and maybe make it an after-school program as well down the line. Trying to do baby steps, but Leanne and I have big hopes. So, and that's how things like this get started, is on hopes.
That's right.
Ideas, so.
Right. And it sounds like you're doing a lot of planning right now to try to accomplish that.
Plotting and planning.
Plotting and planning. All right, folks. that's all that we've got for today. So join us next month. It will also be on the third Wednesday of the month at 2 o'clock when we have another Facebook Live where we will discuss more about advocacy and the services that we offer here at Dynamic Independence. You all have a great day. Bye-bye.
Bye.